Hi, welcome to The Inner Way. I'm your host, Father David Smith. We're going to continue on The Inner Way our study of Unseen Warfare, the great spiritual classic. We looked last week at chapter 14 of Unseen Warfare, and specifically the chapter deals with what do you do when you feel like you're overwhelmed with temptation. That's not quite the language he uses, but that's essentially what's being said. You're overwhelmed with temptation. And what I said last week was really the first thing that the author of Unseen Warfare does is turns to Scripture. And he started sort of giving passages of Scripture that related to how God would help us in times of trouble and how we could rely on God for salvation and for help, for strength, and so on. And so one of the things I said, this is my own insight, is that we need to memorize Scripture. I recalled a car accident Presbytera and I had at one point. But I also, I remember very fondly when I really started getting into Scripture memorization, I bought index cards. I don't even know if they have index cards anymore, but I bought a pack of index cards, and I started writing on them verses or pieces of Scripture that I really wanted to memorize. And then I would carry them around with me and pull them out during the day and see if I had remembered them, and so on and so forth. So putting Scripture into our minds is a good thing. Or quotations of saints, parts of Unseen Warfare. That is just as good. To have these words that we can rely on is a great benefit to us. But chapter 14 of Unseen Warfare is not about memorizing Scripture. It's about what do we do when it seems like we are overwhelmed? What to do when the higher intelligent will seems to be entirely overcome by the lower will and by the enemies. So this is an important part of Unseen Warfare. We are surrounded by demons. Demons communicate with us. They whisper to us. They present us with various temptations. We must never see this as a psychological metaphor, but rather as a spiritual reality. And that's why the last part of the chapter title is "And by the Enemies." So we have our will inside us that's maybe giving us some trouble, and we have the demons on the outside of us that are certainly giving us trouble. So, after the author of Unseen Warfare quotes various parts of Scripture, this is what he says. Thus inspired, do what a warrior in physical warfare does sometimes when he is hard pressed by the enemy. He steps back a little to find a better point of vantage and to see more clearly how best to speed his arrow at the heart of the foe. So you too collect your thoughts within, and reestablishing the consciousness and feeling of your nothingness and of your impotence to achieve by yourself what this moment demands, appeal to God, to whom all is possible, calling for his help against the attack of passion with warmth of trust and tears, saying, Arise for our help and redeem us for thy mercy's sake. At the end there, he again quotes scripture, and he quotes from Psalm 42 in the Septuagint, and I believe that's the last verse of the psalm. Arise for our help and redeem us for thy mercy's sake. So what he says here is you're surrounded by temptations. You first of all, you need to recognize that. I mean, that's an important step, to realize that you're being tempted to do something you shouldn't, to give in to something. So you're surrounded by the temptations, and he says, a warrior in battle who is surrounded by the enemy will pull back and try to find a better position and continue the fight. This is, well, of course, unseen warfare is full of these kinds of images, but this is good advice when it comes to battle, to pull back, get to a place of safety, and continue the fight. But it's a little bit different in the spiritual life. So he says, you pull back, you draw back. I've done that before in my life. I've been in situations that have been where I've been tempted to do something or say something I shouldn't, and I'll say to myself, oh man, I'm in temptation right now, and I will physically remove myself to another place and then just try to get a hold of myself. And that's what unseen warfare says. It's not as if in the spiritual realm we remove ourselves and then continue to attack the demons or to attack or withstand the temptation. But the first thing he says is collect your thoughts within. Collect your thoughts within. That's often what I will find is giving me the most trouble in temptations, is the fact that I am allowing external stimuli to rattle me, to keep me away from what I know to do right. And so these external stimuli make it so I can't hear my own thoughts. And so I withdraw, and the first thing I do is try to get myself back into myself so that I know what it is that I believe, that I know is right and wrong, and that I know what I should do about it. The second thing he says is reestablishing the consciousness and feeling of your nothingness and of your impotence to achieve by yourself what this moment demands. So this is, the very opposite of our Disney culture, where, everybody, where you're going to pull back and gather your thoughts and say, I can do this. I have the strength. I have a dream, and things like that. Then you run out there and you overcome the temptations with, sort of martial arts moves. No. You withdraw, you bring your thoughts back into line, and then you remember, I cannot do this. I am not strong enough to overcome this temptation. I need to say that I am powerless over this temptation, and that I can only achieve anything by admitting that first. And then, and as it comes to number 3, Appeal to God, to whom all is possible, calling for his help against the attack of passions with warmth of trust and tears. So this is, and this is the way to achieve that victory over temptations. You withdraw, draw the thoughts, admit your powerlessness, and then look to the one who is powerful, who is going to save you, is going to overcome the temptation. And if you are overcome by the temptation, you look to the one who is forgiving, loving, merciful, who wants you to be part of his kingdom and is going to accept you back. Well, this is chapter, I won't spend any more time with chapter 14. It's one of my favorite chapters. Of course, they're all my favorite chapters. But next week, we'll get into chapter 15. We're kind of continuing along the same line of thought, but it'll be a slightly different perspective on things. I hope that you can join us. And until then, God bless you, and I'll see you in church.